Well, hello everyone. This video, I hope, is going to give you instructions on how to build this ease model of this meeting room. It's the same meeting room that we used for the assignment, which I thought you were all going to do, and it turned out that I just solved it in class on Tuesday. But it's the same space, and you have this drawing of the space, which gives you the dimensions, a 40 by 60 room with a 20-foot ceiling. So this is what it's going to look like when you finish. But we got to get there. So I'm going to close this guy here, and we're going to start over again. In fact, I think I'll just close ease. I'm going to close ease, and I'm back to my desktop where I have an ease 4.2 icon. You can find this ease 4.2 icon on all of the computers that we have in the all the computers that we have in the 3 labs. Under engineering applications, you'll find an ease 4.2 icon. So I'm going to click on this icon and open up ease. Now, what are we going to do here? We have to start a project. If we go to start working on this icon, it says start working here, and we'll see create a project. That's what we want to do. So we'll create a project. We get all of these icons here, which really are just they're projects that are stored in ease, and you might find one similar to a project of yours where you could start with one of these models, but that's not what we're going to do here. We're going to start with an empty project. So I'm going to come over here and click on Create Empty Project. Let's call this project Meeting Room 105. Let's call it 105A. I may have that one already. Let's call it 105B. Oh, that'll work. And down here under Projects, I'm going to highlight that and call the project file name the same thing. Meeting, maybe I should spell it right. Meeting, I like to run everything together, room 105B. We'll call it that. That makes sense. And you don't have to worry about the rest of this stuff down here. No, you don't have to worry about the fact that the hourglass is still visible in this window. Just go to Create and click on it. And it says that the project path does not exist. Do you want to create it? We're going to create this on the C drive under Ease Data, Ease 4, I think it's Ease 40 Data. I believe that's the folder. We'll put this in that folder. Now in class, I told you about how to save all of this. We have to be careful how we save it. We're going to work on the C drive, but then if you take it away, take this project away to use it on another computer, you're going to want to pack this project. And I'll show you how to pack it. And so when you are finished on the computer you're working on, you want to pack the project and take it with you on your thumb drive or some other method. Email it to yourself or something. So I'm going to say OK. And here we are. Before we go anywhere, I'm going to do an F9. I'm going to press F9. F9 is always options, and we get the option window. There's just a couple of things that we want to change. I'm not sure yours username is something else. Don't worry about that. We just want to go 2 places. One is to settings. We want to make sure that the used unit is the English unit. We're going to do this project in feet and inches. So we want to make sure that it's we check English. Down here, show animated messages. If there's a check mark there, take it out. We don't need that. And play ease sounds. Be sure to remove that one. That's awful. So instant menu help works fine. One other place, default paths. We want to be able to go to the project path, this ease 40 data on the C drive, whenever we want a project. And so this should say C ease 40 data projects 40. If it doesn't, we can select it. We come over here, press this button, and we go to maybe all the way back to the C drive if necessary. down here to ease 40 data. Here it is. And select projects 40. Say OK, and that'll put this in the project path right here. The only other one we're concerned about is this material base. We want it to say ease 40 data, global materials, American base, and then after that, if I can show you the rest of this, we want it to say common materials. If it doesn't, press the button again at the end. If necessary, go all the way back to the C drive. Go to ease 40 data, which you'll find on the C drive of all these computers. Click on global materials. Global means all. American base, that's in English, that's handy. And under it you'll find common materials. This is a list of common materials that I've made. And you won't see this one called common materials RC, but we want to go to common materials. American base, common materials, say OK. There we go. And now that's been done. We've got this all set up right. When we get there, we say OK. Now, what's next? We're going to move to modify data. We have no data. How do you modify data we don't have? Well, this is the way it begins anyway. We'll click on modify data, and we get this edit screen. And it's showing you a Z, an X, and a Y axis. Your axes may look different than mine. They may stop right here, just going this way, and this way, and then up on the blue line, that's the Z axis. We're going to lay our room out along the minus Y axis. You may say, why do such a silly thing? Well, just bear with me. It works the best. And we'll probably make our first vertice along the minus X axis. That's this one. And of course, this is the plus Z and the minus Z axes. So, but before we go any farther, we need to go to options here, F9. And let's take a look at these options, just a couple of them, see if they're set right. Let's start with editing. Under editing, make sure that says move item, step width, feet, 1/10 of a foot is fine, or 2/10 of a foot. If it says 3.28 feet, you'll know it's set to a meter, and that's kind of crazy. So 0.1 feet will work, or 0.2. Make sure that's set. Once that's done, we want to go to pick and make sure the pick radius in pixels is about 10 pixels here. That should be set OK, but we need to check it. Next, let's go up here to grid. And under grid, down here where it says snap resolution, let's make sure that snap resolution is 1/10 of a foot or 2/10 of a foot. It could be set to a meter in feet, 3.28. So let's make it 1/10. And once we've done that, I think we've got everything here that we need to do, except maybe just one thing here. Under View, under the View tab, make sure that where it says Redraw, that there's a check mark in while scrolling and a check mark in while dragging. But under Auto Refit, take the check marks out of these three boxes. We may not even get to this, but it works better if we don't select these three options. And then here's our axis length. First place, we don't have to have any axes at all. It says render system axes. We can turn them off. We don't like them. But we're going to select axes from maybe in this room about a minus 70 on the minus side to maybe plus 120 or something like that on the plus side. I like to make this one a little bit shorter. It might even be obvious if we make a room 60 feet deep. Let's make this 50 feet instead of 60. That might work the best. And make sure there's a check mark in render system axes. And we can say, When we get here, I think we've done everything we're going to do. We can say OK. But of course, we have no scale to this drawing we see here. So we've got to start by making one of the 40-foot walls at one end of the room. We're going to make that wall here in this area along the along the y equals 0 axis. This is the 0, 0, 0 point here, where my selection pointer is now, my magic wand. So we're going to add in a vertice to start with. And here's a selection tool for vertices. Insert vertex. All ease models are made up of vertices, that is, intersections of lines, and faces, which are created between these vertices. So we're going to click here, and then just come out here any old place and do another left mouse click. Let's put our first vertex at a minus 20 feet. The room is 40 feet wide. Let's work on the minus side first. Let's make this minus 20. And the y value, let's make it 0. And the z value, let's make it 0 as well. When we get there, this vertex is going to be called P1 and P1 star. If I hesitate a minute while I'm doing this, I have a cold, and that doesn't make this any easier. So I'm going to say OK, and I don't see anything. Well, we can see that vertex, those vertices we just added, by going up here to this, looks like a globe. It says full view. Now we can see P1 over this side, and this one would be P1 star if we were to turn on the identifications for vertices. That's right here, where it says switch vertex labels on off. Let's turn them on for right now. We'll switch them on. And so we now have P1 and P1 star. The reason that one's called P1 star is that ease creates a symmetrical model around the y-axis initially. We can turn that symmetry off, and we will. But for right now, let's leave it on, because we'll build our model symmetrically about this axis, the minus y-axis. So what are we going to do next? Well, let's take this point right here, click on it again, and if we do a right mouse click, we can tell it to duplicate this point. We want to duplicate it 20 feet in the air. We have a 20-foot ceiling height, so we'll duplicate it there. And this is OK. It asks us to verify these coordinates. They'll be all right. And here's our P2 star. Let's get both on here. Now we can see the whole thing if we do a full view. So now we have the vertices for one 40-foot wall. 40 feet from here all the way to there. 20 feet from either one of these points to the 0, 0, 0 point. And this is 20-foot ceiling. Let's make a wall. We're going to create a face. If I go up here to this icon, insert face, and I click on it, I get this insert face icon, which I'm going to bring over here and click on one of these points. Doesn't matter where we go, but I'm going to do it in a clockwise way, because then I'll be viewing the inside of this surface like we're in the room. So I'll click here and follow this line. I watch this red line, this dashed line. I'll bring it up here to P2, click there, come over like this, and I'll click here. But now I have to watch it. It knows that it's got to draw that other line from P2 star down to P1 star. Can't do anything else. So I always pull this line away a little bit before I make the next click, so I'm really at the right place. I come over here and click here, and it says create a face. Should we create a face? Well, sure, let's do it. And we come up with the face properties box. And we need to create a database of the materials we're going to use in this model. So rather than just getting out of this, I'm going to come over here to where it says Materials, Face, and click on the button at the end of the face line. And it says Choose Wall Material, and the only thing it has is a sonic sound sucker, a complete absorber. Well, that's not what we're going to use. But I'm going to go over here to Browse and click on Browse. And when I do, I'm going to get the coded versions of all the material in common materials. We can probably make this out pretty well. If we come up here where it says 2SA wall, that's 2-inch sound absorbing wall treatment. That's one of the materials that we're going to use. So I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to go down here and say Add, and it puts it over in the project database. I've got some other materials. I can add them all at one time just by using Windows method here with using the control key. I know we're going to use thin carpet, carpet thin. And I'll click on it. And I know that we're going to use, what else? We're going to use a gypboard, 1 times 5/8, GWB, 1 times 5/8. Control and click on it. I know we're going to use hard chairs occupied, hard chairs occupied. I'll click on that. Select it. What else? I'm going to use lay-in ceiling board also. There. And really, that's all my materials, I believe. Just say Add, and it puts them all in my database, 5 materials over here. We can always come back and add anything we like. So I'll say OK. And now I can select for this wall chipboard, because that's what it is mostly. We'll start with chipboard anyway. We're going to change it here in a little bit, but we'll make it chipboard 1 times 5/8 and say OK. It puts the material here. We say OK again. And now we have a wall here, which is outlined in yellow. When it's outlined in yellow, we're looking at the inside of the wall. I can turn this wall around like this using the horizontal scroll bar, and now it becomes white. I'm looking at the outside of it, out in outer space here. It has nothing to do with my model. It's the outside of the wall. I'm worried about the inside here mostly. And so I have this wall ready to go. If I click outside the wall, it just turns it black. I can select it by clicking at it anytime I like. Now, this box, this is rectangular room, is 60 feet long. We can create this all at one time. If I select this wall and I do a right mouse click, I have an extrude command here. Let's try extruding this. We're going to extrude it Cartesian coordinates in the y direction minus 60 feet. I'm going to lay this out along the minus y axis, minus 60 feet, and say OK. Oh, looks like we've created our room all at one time. I'm going to go to full view here. There it is, the whole room. And notice that it's symmetrical. This point is P4. This is P4 star over on this side. And P2 star down here. And P2 is over here. So I can either have these identifications on or not. Let's just turn them off for right now. I'm going to go up here where it says switch vertex labels on and off and turn them off. They kind of get in the way. Now, everything's gypboard at the moment, and we probably don't want that. Oh, one material we were going to add, I think, is a concrete floor. We might want a reverb time without any carpet. Let's check on the, click on the floor here, and let me just do that again, there. And if I want to change this wall material meaning any kind of surface material, I can do an F2. If I press F2, I get my database. But notice I don't have a concrete floor here. I forgot to add it. So I can go to Browse and select find concrete floor. There it is right there. Concrete floor. Add it to my database and say, OK. Now I can make this floor concrete. Let's start that way. Concrete floor. OK. F5 is now a concrete floor, and it says so down here at the lower left side of the screen. Very good. Now we have some kind of a funny ceiling here. The center portion is hard and the perimeter is soft. How are we going to add that? Well, there are a lot of different ways. I'm going to give you the most straightforward way and the easiest to explain. First off, I know that I really don't want this particular ceiling made out of chipboard just like it is, the whole thing. So I'm going to delete this. I'm going to delete this face. I'll just press the delete key and it says, do you really want to do this? And the answer is yes, I do. Now I don't have it. I have these other walls here and so forth, the floor there, but I don't have any ceiling in the room. I know that the perimeter of the ceiling starts on this end 10 feet in here. What if I put a vertex in that face right there at 10 feet, and then one over here at 10 feet, and then make a little face here, which would be sound absorbing material, our lay-in ceiling board. So I'm going to click, let's start over here. I'll click on this face, do a right mouse click, and it says vertex on face margin. Good. Here's my, you see that little X there? I can kind of move it around up here like this and move it down here where I want it to go. And all this time I'm looking down at the bottom of my screen where it's showing rather dramatically here the location of my vertex. I don't know why it's doing that. This has to do with this program I'm making this in. I'm just going to click somewhere there and put it there. I probably don't want that vertex right there. I can select it, and I'll do an F4, the properties of it. Where I want it is a Y value of minus 10 feet. That is 10 feet into the room. I'll just make it minus 10 and say OK. Well, that works. And notice that it did it on the other side too. Well, that's handy right now. I could create a face down here in the end, which would be part of the sound absorbing perimeter. Let's just do that. We'll go get our face selection icon. And now we can make a face here. I'm going to make it this time counterclockwise, and that will turn out then to be an outside face, white. Click here, there, back over to here, and up to, well, it made that already for me. Got to watch it. Bring it up here, click there, and it's going to say, create a face. Yes. Well, right now it's showing it's a concrete floor. The first thing we're going to do is to have our, we'll create the room in its most absorbing form. We'll turn this into lay-in ceiling board. Later we're going to turn this into chipboard and see how lively this room gets. Let's make it lay-in ceiling board, and we'll say OK. Good. Say OK, and now we have that face. We want to do the same thing on the other end down here. Well, I can select this wall again and go to vertex on face margin, chase this little guy around, and why in this video program I'm using, why this goes kind of crazy, I don't know. But I'll come down here and just click someplace, and then we'll fix it. I'll click there, select this point, has to be P6. If I do an F4, I get its properties, F4. And how far do I want it down in the room? The room's 60 feet. I want it a minus 50 feet. Well, it's pretty close. Let's make it minus 50. That makes it 10 feet from the end of the room. And say OK. And it fixed it up on the other side just as well. Now we can create another face here. Why not do that? I don't have to go get this icon. I can just type an F. If I type an F, I get my tool for making faces. And I can go around this in a, I'll start here and go in a counterclockwise way into here and over to here. And there we go again. And now I have another face here. Create the face, yes. Lay in ceiling board, that's just fine. Say OK. Now I have a face there. Now I know also that this portion of our lay-in ceiling is 8 feet wide according to the drawing. So what if I put a vertex right here at, well, where in the x direction? This would be 20 feet, and this is back 8. Take 8 from 20, and I get what? 12 feet. I want to be 12 feet. If I look at it down here, 12 feet in from the 0, 0, 0 point, going in the minus x direction. So let's select this face and do this same thing, vertex on face margin, and we'll take it over here somewhere. We'll have to fix it because it'll be easy for you to do in the real program. And so I'm going to stop it right there. Got it on both sides now. Now I think I'll select, oops, I just want to select this vertex. I'll get right on it and click until I get P7. Do an F4. Where is it? Well, in the x direction, we said it wanted to be minus 12 feet. Minus 12. That puts it 8 feet from the wall over there. And we say, OK. And we've got it on both sides. Excellent. Let's do the same thing in this. For this face right here. Is this one right? Let's see. That one's white also. Good. We're looking at the outside of it. I'll select this one. Do a right mouse click. And here we are with vertex on face margin. I'm losing my place here. And I'm going to come up here and again just put it somewhere, as I can't select it here in this program. But then I'll select it. There it is, P8. Do an F4. Get its properties. I want it to be at minus 12 feet. Type in minus 12. The rest of this is OK. Say OK, and there we are. Now we can finish our ceiling. Let's create a face over here that's sound absorbing. Do an F for make a face. Well, we can start anywhere, but let's start here. Counterclockwise, we're on the outside of the building now. Over to here, and back, and complete it. And hit create a face, and it'll pick up the material we used last, which is lay-in ceiling board. And we just say, OK. Now we should have the same thing over here. Lay-in ceiling board. Looks like we do. Now all we have to do is create a face out in the middle here. So again, an F. Let's create a face in the center. This time we'll start here, let's say. Come down to here. Click over here. And it made this line for us. We got to be careful. Bring it over here. Create face, yes. But this is chipboard. So I click on the button here at the end of the face material and select gypsum board 1 times 5/8 and say OK. Now I can just say OK here. Well, we've created our ceiling now and everything's lovely. But we don't have our wall absorption, which happens to be on 2 adjacent walls. On 2 adjacent walls. So we're recording here again. I paused there for a moment. We've finished the ceiling, but we have these walls to do. And our model is symmetrical. That means we can't add a sound absorbing treatment on this wall without getting one on this wall, and vice versa. So we need to take it out of symmetry. First off, before I go any farther, I'm going to press F6. F6 saves all of our material. And if we don't do an F6 every now and then, we might lose what we're doing. So I'm going to press an F6, and I notice that down here on the taskbar, ease main should flash a couple of times, and indicating I've done a proper F6. So let's see. If I click outside the model with my selection tool outside the model, I do a right mouse click. I get a different menu. I want to go to room data. And this tells me what I have here. I have the meeting room 105B and so forth. It says it's in Easttown. Oh, we could change this. Where is this meeting room? I think it's in Lawrence. Let's write in Lawrence. There we go. That's where it is. But the room is symmetric. The room is also open. In other words, I don't have an enclosed vessel yet. I'm going to have one shortly. But for right now, let's take the symmetry off. I'm going to uncheck room symmetric and say OK. And it says it might take a few minutes to do this. Well, it's going to do it immediately. We'll say OK. Now look what's happened. Where these vertices on this side had numbers with star by them, now they're discrete numbers, P12 over here and P4 over there. My model is no longer symmetric. Well, that's going to let me cut this face right here. That's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to cut this face, do a little different thing here. We'll add a couple of vertices over here, one at 2.5 feet above the floor and one at 10 feet above the floor. And we'll do the same thing over on this side, and then we can cut this face and so that we can make our sound absorbing wall treatment. So we'll select the face. There we are. Do a right mouse click, and let's do this vertex on face margin again. And here's my little X. And again, I have trouble with, I'm going to get it where I think it's about 2.5 feet or so. And I'll just click there. And then I'm going to edit this point. So I'll pick it. There it is. Do an F4. And I want it a Z value of 2.5 feet. It's 2 foot 6 inches. The sound absorbing material starts 2.6 inches above the floor. So I'll just say OK. Now I'm going to do this again. I'm going to do this 4 times actually. There's maybe a simpler way to do this, but this is the most straightforward right now. Vertex on face margin, and I'm going to take it up here someplace close to 10 feet. And then I'll edit it. And if you're a good mouse mover, you can probably, just by looking at where your mouse is down here, if you notice down here it tells where your mouse is. And so you can generally put that right where you want it. I can't do that in this video program I'm using to create this video for you. So I'm going to do an F4 again. And I want this guy to be a Z value. I think it's 10 feet wide plus 2.5 feet from the floor. So that's 12.5. 12.5 feet above 0 point, or the floor. So there we are. I'm going to do the same thing on the other end. I'll say right mouse click and vertex on face margin and put it somewhere. Select it. In this case, that's what I have to do. Do an F4 and set it 2.5 feet above the floor. 2.5. I've done that. Okay. Now I'm going to do this again. And I'll say vertex on face margin. And bring it down here someplace. Maybe there. That's good. Select that point. Click till I select it. Get right on it with the wand. And do an F4. And this should be 12.5 feet up. The Z coordinate. Say OK. Good. Now what I can do is to cut this face. if I go up here to Tools and say, click on Fixed Cut, it gives me this little crosshair, and I want to cut this face. So I'm going to click here and take this over to here, to the other side, and click there, that, and I've created two faces now. That one and that one. Let's do it again, down low here. I'll go up here to Tools, Fix Cut, and click here, and there, and I've created three faces. Now, the center one is sound-absorbing material. We're going to start with our most sound-absorbing mode. So I'm going to do an F2 and select the material, 2-inch sound-absorbing wall treatment. Okay. That shows up down here, tells me it is 2-inch sound-absorbing wall. Fine. Now I need to do that across here. I could actually erase that face and draw these three faces in like I did on the ceiling. But instead of that, let's just add over on this side these two vertices we need, 2.5 feet and 12.5 feet up in that face right there. Vertex on face margin. Find my little X, move him up here someplace. In this case, click there, edit it, click till I get it, P21 it is. F4, it wants to be up 2.5 feet, 2.5. Say OK, there we are. Do it one more time. Vertex on face margin. Find it, put it up here someplace on this particular side of my face. Again, select it, click till you get it. Don't keep moving around with your cursor. Just leave it there and click till you get it. And say F4, and that's up 12.5 feet. I was pretty close there. 12.5. Say OK, and there we are. Now all we have to do is cut this face. Again, our fixed cut idea. Tools, fixed cut. Let's cut this face from here to here. Excellent. Do it again. Tools, fixed cut. We'll cut it from there to there. Excellent. Now let's get this material correct. We'll select this face. F2 is change material. Brings up our database. It's 2-inch sound absorbing wall treatment. OK. There it is. And the floor now in our most non-reverberant mode is thin carpet. Well, it's actually people there too. We can change this to carpet for the moment, but we're also going to put some seats in here. Remember, in our problem we said that seats would go out here 46 feet, a 46 foot this direction and 40 feet wide. So we've got to do our vertex on face margin one more time. We want to be out here at a y direction of minus 46 feet. This is minus y going this way. Here's our short axis, by the way. That's the minus side. So let's do this same thing again. Vertex on face margin and come out here someplace where we think's around 46 feet. Click it. Let's edit this guy. It wants to be at minus 4. Whoa, I was right on it almost. Minus 46. Say OK. Do the same thing on the other side. Select it. Vertex on face margin. Only this time bring it down this side and stop it somewhere about the right place there. And go select it. Click till you get it. There it is. F4. Minus 46. I'll hit it there. Pretty close too. Minus 46. OK. Let's do our fixed cut one more time. Tools. Fixed cut. Let's cut from here to here. We'll say, all right, we did it. Now, right now, this is carpet. That side's carpet, and so is this. So for one of our cases, the most non-reverberant case, this is going to be occupied hard chairs. Well, let's say hard chair occupied. Let's change all of that to that material. Now, this is a very simple model, and you could say, well, these chairs take up space in the room, and yes, they do, and there are some ways to compensate for that. But for the moment, this will be good enough, I think. So now we'll do an F6 again to get everything saved properly. And we wonder, what is the reverb time? Well, first off, can we close our room up? So far, we haven't made any errors. If we had a face reversed, for example, let's say I turn that face around where it's backwards. Right up here, I have an icon that says invert selected face. That face is facing wrong. If I do an F6, it comes up and says, uh-oh, face mismatched or hole in the room. Use check holes to get information. Well, let's try that. Data not saved. Data not checked. Save anyway. Okay, yeah, we'll save it. Let's go up here to Tools, Check Holes. Well, the problem is around these vertices. And if I say redraw all, like this, what happens is it shows, it should show, there we are, it shows that there's some problem around this face. It's upside down. But ease will do some of these corrections automatically. Let's just try closing the holes and see if it turns it around to the correct orientation. Ah, it says, well done, Bob Coffeen. Wow, it's so polite. Okay, now let's see. Did it turn around? Yeah, everything's fine now. Do another F6 just to make sure. Looks good. Let's see if we can close our model. Did we make an enclosed, completely enclosed vessel here? If we go to room data, and we had a check-in room open because we wanted to do all our model building with it open so we wouldn't keep getting error messages. But look here, it says the volume is 353,146 cubic feet. Well, that's ridiculous, of course. It's not anywhere near that. If I take that check out, and let's see if I say apply, let's see what happens. Well, we didn't get any error messages. We must have an enclosed volume. Let's go back and go to room data again. And now it's showing the correct volume, 48,000 cubic feet. Just exactly right. We can now get the reverb time. This tab right here will show reverb time. And it was very low, as we found out from our manual calculations. Very nice here, with people in the room. I think we'll find these are about the same. Now notice this is in third octaves. And so we could assume, however, that at 1,000 hertz, 0.52 applies to the entire octave, 800, 1,000, and 1250, that make up the 1,000 hertz octave frequency band. Ease is a 1/3 octave program. If I want to see this, let's just say, okay, if I want to see this in a nice chart, I can go here to View, and down here, Room RT, and now I get a chart of it and a numerical listing of it over here on the right. And if I'd like to save this, I can go to File, and I can send picture to, say, the clipboard, or File. If I send to clipboard, then I could paste it into some other application like Word or PowerPoint or whatever. I could also save it as a file. If I save it as a file, it's going to want to save it as a bitmap file. But let's just, I could save it as as something else like a GIF file or a JPEG file. JPEG. And I could call it whatever I wanted. I could call it reverberation time, RT, and we'll make this case 1. Case 1. most reverberant, say save it, and it saves that as that file. Now we can go retrieve it. I'm going to ask you to give me this chart for, what, 5 different cases. And I'll post a little a file in a PDF format defining these cases. Let's say we want to change now to some other case. Let's close this. Let's find out what the most reverberant situation is. I'm going to change everything that isn't chipboard to chipboard. Well, I can select that face, which is lay-in ceiling board, and if I do an F3, I'll select all the faces that are lay-in ceiling board. I want to make those all chipboard. If I do a Control F3, I get my selection tool, my selection list rather here, wall materials, and let's make them all chipboard. Whoop, there, okay. Now all of these surfaces are chipboard. This one is, I'm sorry, that one, and this one over here. Click till you get the one you want. There you go. And how about this wall treatment? I could make this and its friend over here, I could make it chipboard as well. I'll do an F3, and it shows me the 2 surfaces that are 2-inch sound-absorbing wall. If I do a Control F3, now I can select chipboard for those. Say OK. And let's say that the entire floor is concrete. Well, this is now hard chairs occupied. Let's do an F2 and just select concrete floor. This room is completely hard. And the front is still carpet. Let's do an F2 and select concrete floor. So now I have, I think, chipboard or concrete on every surface. So that's chipboard, that's chipboard, well, it all is. Do an F6 just to save it in this mode. We can go to room data. If we want to see that we hear what our reverb time is quickly. Whoa, here at mid-frequency is about 5 seconds. Well, that's very lively. We wouldn't like this room at all as a meeting room, although I've been in them that are like this. If we want to say OK there, if we want to view that, we can go here to Room RT under View, and we get this chart. Look at this chart now. It's really crazy. The maximum reverb time is right here in the speech frequencies. That is really wild, isn't it? And the air in the room gets to some of this up here, and the chipboard has some absorption down low, but it leaves the center frequencies very lively. So that's kind of crazy, isn't it? Well, in any event, we can make any of these particular cases now by just simply changing the material and then looking at the reverb time. I'd like you to do that for the 5 cases that I'm going to define. I'd like you also to print out your model. Oh, if you want to see this in color, for example, we can certainly do that. We might change something back here to, let's make these surfaces right here now back to 2-inch sound absorbing wall. We'll see what they look like that way. And this one the same way. Now I can't, if I select one of these and say F3 and get all the chipboard surfaces, that isn't going to help any when I change these back. So I kind of have to do it one at a time. Change that to 2-inch sound absorbing wall. And we can also change our ceiling back if we want to lay-in ceiling board. We'll do that. We'll have to do this individually, but it doesn't take very long. Lay-in ceiling board, okay. And over here, lay-in ceiling board, okay. And over here, oops, wrong thing. What am I doing here? There, lay-in ceiling board, okay. So I think I have lay-in ceiling board now on these all around the perimeter of the ceiling. And if we wanted to see now how our room looks, the floor is still concrete, do an F6, we can render it in color. The colors are already set where it can be changed, but standard rendering is this icon that looks like a little white box. And I'm going to double click on it. And so what's the problem here? Why can't I do that? I don't know. There we go. It's just in the wrong place. Well, we can see that our wall material is kind of brown and the gypboard is kind of greeny yellow and the concrete floor is gray. If I maximize this here so I can see the scroll bars, we can turn this around and we can see that the other wall is the same way. Maybe I want to see the ceiling. I can tip the model up like this. Oh, how about purple for the lay-in ceiling board? Now, this isn't meant to be beautiful, but it does show you the materials. Now we can close this. And I would like you to print out this particular wireframe model. If we don't want to see the vertices, we can always turn vertices off up here, switch vertices off. Now we don't see them. Now they're back on again. If you're going to take this model with you somewhere, we need to pack it up. That's the last thing I'm going to show you. So I'll make sure I've done an F6 and saved everything. And I'm just going to close the edit window, just the edit window. And here I still have, well, looks like I've got it open twice here, but here's my meeting room window here. And I'm hoping that that's the one I want. I don't know why that one's open. So here we are. And I go to this icon called Pack Project. And if I click on it, it says, let's save this file in a folder under Ease 40 Data called Archive. And we'll call it Meeting Room 105B PPJ, Packed Project. What this does is it takes the model and all the materials and puts them in one place so that you can transfer them between computers that may not have the same database. So if I say save, then it also wants to know, should we minimize all the base files? That means only include those which we've used, those materials. Let's check out of that. Include cluster components. We don't have any. We can compress it. We can zip it up if we like. We can do that. We say, okay, zip it up, please. Gives us this list of what we zipped up. We really don't care about that. Now we've packed our project. I wonder where it is. Let's, I don't know how I got this open twice, but let me go back just to Explorer here and go to Ease 40 Data. Now I have tons of projects here. So I've got to find the project we want, which is called Meeting Room. Let's go back one. Meeting Room, must be at the top here, 105B. And under Archive, I have the Meeting Room 105B zip. I take that file and put it on my thumb drive. And then if I go to another computer, I can open it up on that other computer and I'll get the project back. A good thing to do, however, is to create a folder on the C drive under Ease 40 Data, that you can do, which is Meeting Room 105B when you go to another computer. If that folder doesn't exist, and then take this zip file and put it in that folder, and then click on this in that folder. You can do that, or you can open it up right from here. So what I'll do is I'm just going to minimize this for the moment, and I'm going to close down. First place, I don't know why I have this open. I'm going to close this ease. Well, okay. That was one of my problems earlier. Here's the version we're using right here. And if I just say, okay, I'm through with these, I'll close it. Now, I'm going to go back over here to Ease 40 data, and here's my zip file. I can just click on it here, and it'll bring it up and call it PPJ again. Click on it here, and it will open up Ease. And if I just say OK here, it should bring me back to my Ease 105B. If I say Room Edit, Modify Data, I should get my model back, and I do. I hope this allows you to build this model. It's a lot to listen to, but I think it will help you build this model. You can open Ease and this video at the same time, putting one on one part of the screen and one on the other part of the screen, and you can go through this video while you're building the model. That works okay. So I'm through here, and I'm going to quit. Thanks for listening. I hope you can build the model okay.